Hello everyone. Good morning, very good morning to you all. And it's a very good Saturday morning here in Papua New Guinea, especially Port Moresby. And I really am looking forward to interviewing my fifth guest today, this morning. And so, as we wait for her to join in, I'm just going to give you a quick update on who our guest is for today's episode. Hi, Dagya. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I really appreciate that. So, I will be interviewing Hennah Joku. Hennah Joku is a media specialist and she is a TV reporter, presenter, as well as journalist as well. So, she has been in that space since she joined as a teen and she has been serving in that space for quite some time, and she has vast experience not only in media but also advocacy on women's rights and issues that are affecting women in the country as well, especially gender-based violence. So this morning I will be interviewing her, and specifically to talk about um, general elections, especially the role of media and the role of journalism and media in protecting, strengthening, and supporting democracy and the work of democracy in a nation, as well as we'll be as well as we'll be hearing her stories about the stories that she's covered in 2017 election. As you can see, this conversation is more about um, having awareness around elections because it is leading up to elections. So one of the aims is for this platform is to make awareness and bring more awareness to what election is, what voting is, what democracy is, and how you can be able to take part in it. So as a way of using this platform to advocate about on this topic, that is why we're going to be focusing on um, journalism and democracy, stories from 2017, and if 2022 stories will be good or not good, and also the women's rights, especially in participation and representation in politics. So, hi, art activism in PNG. Thank you so much. As you can see, I'm wrapping my Clean Gen t-shirt this morning. So I love the t-shirt. I love what it stands for. So thank you. So we'll just wait for her to join us, and then we'll get started. But just before she joins us, I think it is very important for conversations around election, conversations around democracy, and conversations around the importance of voting. And so having experts, having people who have been in the space, people who have actually been on the ground to take part in or witnessed events, took part in events, is very important to hear from them so that we can be able to be well versed in stories, in experiences, so that we will see and try to measure if the past was any better or any worse than the coming election. So I believe in freedom, and I believe that it's when it is given to us, when freedom is given to us, it wasn't a question of political movement. It wasn't a question of what a polit uh, what a politics stands for, or it wasn't. What I am trying to say is every individual inherited freedom. And for us to continue to keep this alive, we must be able to work on institutions that protect this freedom. We must be able to work on areas or, yeah, areas that protect and build and strengthen freedom. So, especially democracy. So, here we are. And Hennah has already joined us. Hi, Hennah. I'm going to bring you in, and I hope that people can tune in as well. But it's there's I understand why a lot of people are probably still asleep this morning. So okay. Hi Hannah. Good morning. I am so sorry. It is early in the morning. I know you probably wanted to probably sleep in or not, but I thought it's very kind of you to wake up early in the morning to be on this conversation with me. And I'm sure you have a lot of, stuff to do ahead of you. So thank you so much for taking time to jump on this live conversation with me. How are you doing this morning since yesterday?
Oh, all good. Thank you for the invitation. And it's never too early to have a good conversation, I think.
I love that. Absolutely love that. So, just a brief of what we'll be discussing today. I thought if you to, since you have that experience in the area of journalism and covering the stories in the 2017 election, and now that we are heading towards an election in after 5 years, I thought it's good to have conversation with people who already have an experience firsthand on the ground on how they've seen how the election played out and if it will be any better or any different this election. So and the importance of media in maintaining, protecting democracy, and of course, women's rights in and especially why it is important for representation and participation of women in parliament. So yes, I that's the
So,
overall of what we're going to be conversing about today. So just tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm sure there's a lot of people who know you, but there's a lot who don't know who you are. So like where you're from, and what do you do now? Something like that.
sure, thank you. So I'm currently the communication specialist at the PNG Tribal Foundation. I'm coming from mainstream media, where I have experience working with the three TV broadcasters in the country. So I started off my career with MTV in the mid 90s, and then I moved into radio with PNG FM early 2000. That was covering both, doing news for both PNG FM's stations, Now FM and Jimmy FM. And then I had 2015, 16 was when I joined NBC, and 2017 I moved to TVWan, and I was there up until last year. So I come from Central Province and West Papua, uh, born and bred in Port Moresby, so Moresby girl. Lived in different suburbs, but I've also lived at home in Jayapura and in Java itself for about 10 years before I came back.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, excited. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for wanting to have this conversation. I think while a lot of people know what the media does, sometimes it's hard to understand some of the basic guidelines that we have to follow when we're doing our jobs.
Wow. Thank you so much. And it's good that to know that you're also from the other side of the island. Papua is a big island. I mean New Guinea. So interesting as well to see, especially coming from both sides of the culture. Of course, probably there's similarities in there, but how did you like come to know Papua New Guinea? Was there like is your mom from PNG? Is your dad from PNG? You know, just I know your dad is from where your dad is from, but for those who are wondering which side of yeah the family is
Sure,
from, which side of the island.
sure. So my father is from a place called Sentani in Jayapura. You'll know it is where the airport is. And my mother comes from Kuni, Goilala, and Elevala.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So that makes like both of us from the mountain. I'm from the mountain as well, so that's really good.
Wow.
Yes. So to get into the conversation, I know you have so much. I know you have so many inspirational stories to tell, like in terms of women empowerment. And for that, I mean, there's so much that we can dig into, but we will leave
Mhm.
that for another conversation. But for now,
Sure.
just you like have this incredible view about journalism, media, and how it protects, maintains democracy, and especially when we are having this election right now. What can you like share a little bit about your view on why media is important in upholding and protecting and strengthening democracy in a nation? Okay. Yay, we'll just invite her back on. She dropped out. But yes, I'm sure you are having this incredible time learning something new from me. I hope you'll be learning something new from here. And if you can share it with other people to join in, it will be an interesting conversation that um, we really don't want to miss. So, yeah.
Sorry,
Back.
I'm back.
Hi. No worries, no worries. So, as I was saying, what is your view? What is your opinion on, or your view on democracy and the role that the media plays in strengthening and protecting democracy?
So first and foremost, the most important rule that we have to remember as media is remaining neutral at all times, regardless of if we're stepping in to cover a story for government, if we're stepping in to cover a story in the corporate space, civil society, whatever it is. It's most important to remain neutral at all times. Our story cannot reflect our political support, our affiliations. We just have to remain neutral. That's the most important thing. And making sure that everything is verified by multiple sources and the facts are verified. So you're not running an opinion. It's not about what I think. It's not about what my organization may think. We have to make sure that we are as critical as possible in obtaining the facts and delivering the facts through our stories.
Oh, wow. And I think that's very, very important, especially when it comes to crucial matters, right? I think it's not only just in democracy, but since we are talking about elections, it's a fact, it's a principle all across the board that when we're reporting, reporting has to be consistent with, yes, consistent with what the statistics, what the facts are, and it's not an opinion. And I absolutely agree with you on that. I'm not a journalist, but I think that makes sense, and that should be something that is encouraged by the media. Of course, it is encouraged by the media. Um, in terms of your experience in the last election, covering stories for the 2017 election, what is like? if you have to give a view on that, would you say, or do you think that the last election, the media kind of played a big role in its success, in terms of having information delivered to the people, the right information delivered to the people, and encouraging and strengthening the process of election? Or what would be your view on that?
So for the 2017 elections, it was definitely probably the most rigged elections we had in the country. And every time it comes around to elections, every single newsroom, whether it's print, radio, or television, is stretched. You know, you have your entire newsroom team um, delegated to different aspects of covering media. And so our days run into nights. You know, we don't we lose a sense of any normal life, because when you're going into this industry as well, it's a passion. You live it, you breathe it. And so wanting to do our jobs right and do it well was something myself and all my colleagues went into the last elections. You're committed to deadlines, you're committed to fact sharing, information gathering. And as much as we had tried to deliver it accurately and fairly, there's always the risk, though, because of the role that you play in disseminating information. There will always be parties that don't agree with how you're reporting it, what you're saying about it, even though it's just taking facts from source A and source B and delivering it to the public, because that's the job. They have to know what's going on, whether it's good, it's bad, it's ugly. We have to just put it all out there. It was really, really challenging. Um, you work with very difficult situations. Sometimes you will get into risky and dangerous situations sometimes. And so it's not an easy job to do. And the 2017 elections brought all of that with it. It was needing to be wary, it was needing to be conscious, it was needing to be alert 24 hours a day that you are out there doing the job. And it was a massive, massive effort. And I want to applaud all the media and all my colleagues that participated. It tests you. The elections is one of those events that will absolutely test you, not just physically and mentally, but also morally. You will be, at any time you'll be put in a situation and you have to make the call. Is this the right story to cover? Is this the right angle to take? Is this the right person I need to be talking to? If it goes against my morals, my judgments, or my ethics, then maybe I shouldn't cover it. Maybe I shouldn't run it. And so you need to be thinking on your feet constantly, especially when the opportunities arise that you're out there trying to get a story or trying to cover stuff, and you're pushed or backed into a corner where that may come into question. If you're following the media code of ethics, if you're following standards that you set for yourself. And many times, yes, when journalists decide, you know what, I'm not going to run this or I'm not going to do this, it puts us in a very difficult situation where maybe your organization is on your back or wanting certain deadline to be met. But you have to make sure you protect yourself at all times as well, and that you remind yourself that you're also protecting the integrity and of that organization and of the media as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I mean, as a civilian and from a civilian standpoint of view, I sometimes don't really know what is, the day-to-day life or the day-to-day walkabout of a journalist. So sometimes I think that their job is to just go out there and report, but I don't understand the from them getting to from point A to point B just to get that story done for us to consume. So just run us through what a normal day for a
Work
journalist would be,
day.
especially when, yes, especially when it is like in a event like this, like general election. Is it risky? Do they, if they have to go and sleep out, of of the venue of wherever they're covering the story from, just bring us through, because most of the time not we are not really understanding of what journalists go through just to get the story done for us. So on a typical day for a journalist, especially during election time, from your experience, what is it like?
So the earlier you're up, the better. Sometimes with different events happening, different schedules. If you have to be somewhere in a particular province or particular area at a certain time, you are up at whatever time is designated to you, and you kind of work backwards. I know I have to be, in Hagen at 10 o'clock for this. I'm on this flight, be at the airport at this time. You need to prep beforehand. It's usually the day before. So the day can change. Every day it's constantly changing, but when you're assigned or delegated, or you go out to a press conference or an event and you're gathering your news, you're conducting your interviews, you have to keep in mind your deadline also. So for the newsrooms, we all have a deadline of, say, 3 p.m. For radio, it will vary because their news bulletins are hourly. So for the newspapers, television, it's roughly the same. Your deadline is 3 p.m. because you have to get all your stories into your editor by that time. They will edit it, they will check it, they will recheck it, and make sure that for television that it's already, for the 6 p.m. bulletin, and for the papers it has to have its final check and edit before it goes to print. For radio, you will always be required to do your multiple stories during your 8-hour day, but because you work with an hourly bulletin, it's submitting multiple stories for that particular news bulletin and for the bulletins that you're assigned to provide news for the day. It changes every day. We have no one day that ever looks the same in journalism. So it's just constantly being ready, making sure your phones are charged, making sure and it can take you anywhere. I've done some projects where it's, we're up and out and we have to be in Hagen at 8 o'clock, make sure we've arrived in Mendi safely, by lunchtime, cover that event, then make sure we're out in the surrounding areas, cover those nominations happening there. So you don't really get time for a breather, and you have to make sure you're filing your stories back to your newsrooms so that it can get into the bulletins, and that all the information covering from your delegated task arrives at your newsroom on time and can go with the bulletin for that evening or for that day. Because when you wake up the next day, you've got different set of tasks and different set of interviews to conduct, different people to talk to. So it's very hectic.
Wow. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we have to appreciate the hard work that media, does to just provide us with one article. That's what the journalists go through to do that. Well, it's very interesting to know this as a citizen, I think, and with media as the fourth arm of the government, and also which is supposed to be independent, right? Most of the time, we see like media supporting particular political party or particular side of the government. Of course, probably it's not obvious in the country. Maybe it is obvious, but if you look at the U.S., right, there's a whole network of conservative Republican news outlet, and then there's a whole network of democratic, liberal, whatever, left wing news reporting networks and outlets. And then you see these two sides trying to battle each other just by supporting their side of the story. And it's in PNG, the countries are small, that we have like limited news out like sources or outlets in the country. For like your opinion, and this is not something that I want anyone to take out of context, but we have limited number of news outlets that we consume our news from. How sure are we that these news outlets and news companies are not reporting bias, or they're not like, how sure are we that they're independent? I mean, it's something, it's a question that you maybe want to answer, you don't want to answer, but probably give your opinion about it. But I feel like it's, as a person just watching the situation play out, sometimes I feel betrayed by the media for reporting something that I and all the citizens know should be, done in a different way. So sometimes it's the headline that gets us off. Sometimes it's the typo in the news, or generally just reporting on a particular person or a particular candidate or a particular party or a government, but reporting in a favorable manner instead of reporting in a way that makes us think and makes us question if this is the right thing that the um, the government or any other party involved are doing it the right way. So would you what is the state of news reporting in our country, especially all these news reporting companies? Are we sure that they are not biased, or just that conversation?
So Papua New Guinea is so small, and we have, as you said, very limited news organizations. And just as it is with many other sectors, we will always have that risk of nepotism and one-talk system. Now, journalists are all held to a professional code of conduct, and you have to maintain that in your job the entire time. There are lots of incidents where sometimes stories that you get told to run, maybe it's something that I personally don't agree with. And many times journalists will raise that, whether it's the right thing to do or not, but it also goes through different stages in management. Journalists will submit a story, it will go to an editor, it will go to a chief editor, and at the end of the day, the journalists themselves don't make that final call on what story gets run, what story gets dropped. And so taking that into consideration, it will come straight back down to the management of your organization and what will get approved to go to air, or either or publication. And included in those set of conducts is fact checking and verification of all information that we're going to put out in our story. So we have to do all that groundwork and do all that confirmation, and the angle in which it's taken also will depend on the journalist and their style of writing or their style of reporting. But also if anything is going to be edited or going to be changed, that's going to be done once your story is out of your hands and it's into the editor's hands or the chief editor's hands, and they ultimately have the final say on what goes to air, what goes to print.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I mean, so like all these typos and whatever is kind of like, sometimes I wonder if it is intentional or if it is unintentional. Some of the headlines, it makes us all go crazy, and then the next headline calms us down, and all of these things. But I think it goes back to code of conduct and the hands of the media, especially the editors as well. Well, that's very important and also interesting to know about. It's as a democracy, it is very important that neutrality is maintained, especially when it comes to elections, right? Especially election is the very important event in any democracy in the world, where people exercise the democratic right to do what they need to do to elect their representatives in parliament. it is, I've been observing, and I don't know if this is something that you will agree with me on or not, but this election has started off on a note that's absolutely hard to comprehend. We have deferred, the first activity of the election to, or we have deferred the election itself, and then the first activity that's supposed to happen, which is the issue of wreaths. Of course, it was signed, but the real, the real thing is not yet happening because we are, paying respect to late Honorable Sembaso. And I also think that because of COVID as well, it has kind of affected the process of election as well. So I, as a citizen, I'm thinking that our right to exercise the democracy, our right to have a say, is being overruled at the top by
Mhm.
people who are representing us and making decisions that they think are necessary and important. Of course, we are a very cultural country. Most of us have cultural obligations. But is it too much to be deferring elections for so many times? I feel like it is not democratic at all right now. The more we defer, it's like the more decisions are taken away from the people to actually say that, hey, you are not following the protocols and processes. So as the fourth arm of the government, which is supposed to be independent, shouldn't there be questions raised by the fourth arm of the government, which is the media, about how badly we are starting off with this, with this coming election? Or is it possible for the news outlets or the media to actually write something about it that is not biased, that is neutral, that is asking all the right questions about why this is happening, and if this is the right thing that the the legal authority of the day, which is the government, if it's the right thing that the government is doing to prolong this process, which is fundamental to any democracy in the world.
Most definitely. The thing that's been happening also is all throughout the preparation time from the last elections to this one. Um, the media has always been asking that, and each election is going to be different. Circumstances are going to be different. We're seeing that now, even with this. There are circumstances beyond our control. There are circumstances that shouldn't have been left to the last minute to be controlled and to be managed. And those questions always get asked, especially with the media briefings and preppings coming up to it. They have continuously asked that to the government. Um, are they ready? That's the main question. Are we ready? Do we have all the systems that are going to be used in check and in place, from the electoral rolls to making sure we have adequate security to cater for the population everywhere? Do we have the systems to make sure people will get that chance to vote fairly? Do we have the systems to provide for persons living with disabilities? Every single different aspect, the media briefings and meetings with all these different government agencies have been ongoing, and they get more frequent as we get closer to the event itself, to the different processes that are involved. We won't always get the answers we want to hear or the answers that people want to hear. So all they can do really is also take what they've been told and make sure that people are being kept informed and updated. Um, Sometimes it may not look good, but that's the reality of it. It's just making sure we put it out there because people want to know, what's going on. And taking into consideration, like you said, with the recent loss of our deputy prime minister, it's adapting and adjusting to that situation.
Ah, okay, let's see. So I think our network is dropping out. So hi, Jenny. Hi, Naomi. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, Mary Manos. Thank you for joining. Please share it with your friends and then ask them to tune in because the next topic is going to be interesting, and that's women representation in parliament. So, um, yeah, so we'll just wait for you to join in. Okay. So, as we were talking about, thank you. So, we're talking about the importance of media in democracy, especially during election, and how it maintains and supports and protects democracy, because how reports are done can also affect the process of election as well as how strong a democracy is. So I'm just gonna invite her again. Hi Del Toro, thank you so much for joining. So good morning, Mary Manos. That's a she's unable to join. Okay. Hi Hannah, you can request to join me and then I'll accept. Yep. So I think it's very important that we have this conversation, and as Hannah covered some of the stories or most of the events in 2017 election, I thought it will be a very good thing to have her share stories as well as share opinions about the importance of democracy in election, and also women representation in parliament. So, okay, see, go live with. Well, thank you, and I hope you are finding this conversation very helpful and also educational as well. Let's see, sorry, having a problem getting here on live, so let's just um, invite her again. Yeah. Hello, Mr. Black Juice. That's a lovely handle for Instagram account. I hope you win the. I see you're leading in the competition in Wild Child J's competition. So I hope you. I wish you the best of luck. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can ask me while we wait for Hannah to join back in. Um, but as I was saying, I think as a citizen, I think media is very important, and it plays a very important role in democracy and supporting and protecting democracy in any country in the world. Oh, so having that in mind, and also um, very how should I say this? Yeah, especially in a time where we are heading towards general election, it is important that we discuss this particular topic and also know what the role of the media is in terms of as citizens, in terms of holding the processes of the election accountable and making sure that the election is done in a way that's free, fair, and safe. So let's see. Sorry. Thank you, Jenny. So we'll just. I am trying to accept her in, but there's something. I don't know what is wrong with my phone. Okay, let me just try again. Okay. But anyways, oh, thank you very much. I try to be as conscious as possible. Sometimes I go off track, but I try to keep it. Okay, she's left live. So, anyways, as I was saying, I believe that any election processes in a country, or particularly democracy, should be protected and should be strengthened. And to achieve that, I think the media plays a very big role in that. And now this year we're going to be observing one of the most important democratic events um, in the country, and that's elections. And it's a very important event that every citizen gets the right to choose the leader that they want or that they think will represent them well. So it is important that they are held accountable, as well as they are reporting in a manner that is fair, that is neutral, and they're also reporting in a manner that doesn't agitate the citizens because of the way an issue is being reported about. It may anger the people, right, to take action to do something, which may turn into um, an event that is is something that will you know cause chaos in the community and whatnot. So I think it's also important to be able to report in a way that brings valid messages to the people and educates them so that they can take this election very seriously and know that their voices are being heard and their vote counts and that they're voting the leader that they want to or that they choose to vote. So we just give another 5 minutes while I just go through my thoughts on why I think also why I think women's representation in the parliament matters. I think I've shared this yesterday, but I wanted to share it again on here um, that I think it is very important for women to be elected into parliament, not because, and let me make this clear, not because not because she's a woman, but because she's capable of leading. And that's the key thing that should differentiate, someone that you want to work for. So I wouldn't vote for someone because she's a woman only. I would want to vote for someone who is a woman also, but who is very, very capable. And that should be the distinction. That should be the benchmark. That should be the standard. You're voting for a woman because you know that she will represent you well. She will represent your issues well. She will represent what you think are important, and that's why you want to vote for a woman. You will not vote for a woman because she is a woman. You want to vote for a woman because she is capable. She can deliver. She can do it. Yeah. So that should be how we should be thinking about electing women women leaders in parliament this year. We want to vote women because they're capable of leading, not because they are women. Gender is not. Of course, we can be women, but everything should not be based around gender. It should be about credibility. It should be about qualification. It should be about the policies. It should be about the strategies of the candidate. What are they doing that is going to be different? What are they doing that's going to be? What are they standing for? What are their policies? What are strategies? Right? And what kind of political parties are they associated with? And are these political parties a representation of my values and my issues? That's very important because the moment someone joins, excuse me, the moment someone joins a political party, they can have a particular list of policies they want to talk about when they get into parliament, or a list of strategies, or themes or topics. But the moment they join a political party, the how will I say this? The policies of that political party is overall for the candidate. And so the most important thing is you do not, the wise thing to do is to know what the political parties are of the candidates that you're supporting. And if they support the issues that you support, that's important. That's very important. Remember the last time you voted because you supported an individual candidate and you didn't give any thoughts about the political party that endorsed that candidate? Can you remember that? Do you remember that? And then you were devastated. You were devastated because they weren't representing you well enough. They weren't doing well enough for the community. They weren't doing well enough for the. They weren't doing well enough for the electorate or the constituency. That's like, from my opinion, I think that's a problem. Like, we support an individual candidate and their credibility and their um their thoughts and their actions and what we believe they are capable to do, but we don't consider who is sponsoring them, the political party that is sponsoring them. That's very important, and I want you to take really, really good note on this one. If you're supporting a candidate, you have to look at the political parties that has endorsed them and is taking them on board, because the moment they win, it's not their um, individual strategies and policies that they stand for that will stand out. It's going to be the political parties' whole strategy, policy, whatever that they're going to implement through this candidate, because they sponsored this candidate, they nominated this candidate, they gave thousands of kina to this candidate to do elections, campaign, and so they will want to get the best out of this candidate. So it is very, very important that if you support a candidate, it's so important that you look up the policies of the particular party that is the polit the particular party that is sorry, the political party that's endorsing them. It's very important because the moment that they get in, they may do their best, but they will still want to um, please their political party. And no one wants to talk about this, but that's the fact. So my advice is, um, look up the political parties and your candidate. If your candidate has been supported by a political party, then you look them up, look the political party up, and look through what they stand for. If your candidate is saying that they want to create job opportunities for youth, but then the political party that has endorsed them doesn't have that on their strategy, 5-year strategy, that's a waste of time. That's right there. I think it's, yeah. That's so you want to look up the political party that is endorsing a candidate. That's very important. And if you're supporting youth as an individual and you want to vote for someone who is a candidate that's supporting the issues of young people, okay, if that candidate is independent, that's good for you. If that candidate is supported by a political party, you go and you look up the political party strategy and their 5-year plan, and then see if fighting for the youth issues is part of their agenda. Then you can vote for that person. If not, I'm sorry, but it's going to be just another 5 wasted years. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, Naomi, I think it's really a good point as well. Okay, Hannah is unable to join us. I'll just wait for her to request to join, and then I'll try to I'll try to have her on. But if there is one point that you want to take home from this conversation, I would say that the media plays a very important role in upholding democracy, supporting systems of democracy, values and principles of democracy, and at the same time, if you're voting for if you're voting for a candidate, please look up the policies of or the 5-year strategy for the political party that has endorsed them, because it's very important. If they win, they will still be guided by this political party's mandate on what to say, what to speak, where to put the money, and if the political party's strategy doesn't align with your strategy and what you think, I think you should start looking for another person to vote. That another candidate that you think is supported by a political party that is that is supportive of your idea or of your issue of what you're thinking as well. So for the last time, I'll try to invite Hina in, and if that doesn't go well, then definitely we can schedule another time to complete to finish this conversation. So I think that is my thought on women candidates and of course all candidates and political parties and elections. To finish off with, I think women's representation is very crucial today, and as you can see, the chaos that we've been through for the last 5 years, just having voice in parliament. Sorry for saying voice, having men in parliament. So it is time that we put some women, not just 1, 2, but we have to put some women, and we are talking about 10 to 20 women. 10 to 20 women. Yeah. So we have to get more women in there so that we can be represented well. Hi, Hannah, you are live.
Hi.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. So I was just
Sorry about
saying.
that.
No worries. I was just saying, giving my thoughts on the women representation in Parliament and why it is important to support women this election. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Women are best suited to represent themselves for their own issues. It's like I cannot ask you to go and talk about media or journalism because that's not an area you understand. or no. And it will be the same for women's rights, whether it's GBV, whether it's maternity care, whatever it is. We just have a different perspective and a different view and angle, and we bring a different skill set to the table. And having representation of women in parliament is crucial. It's so important because there are different things that we will prioritize that, as many of you know, are being forgotten and being left out, because it is just not being recognized and not being prioritized by those that we already have in leadership. So I see that we have a huge number of women candidates contesting. I'm really excited to see that. I'm excited to follow this journey and this process and see how that pans out. So, you know, we wish them all the best of luck, but I wholly believe that to even have representation in parliament, it isn't something I would want to be given on a silver platter. It's something I want to also be given the tools and the resources to have a fair go, and try just like everybody else. We need to remember that a lot of these things are based on basic human rights. I have a right to run for politics. I have a right to make sure all of the issues surrounding me as a citizen and an individual are recognized. So we failed miserably, and hopefully we can change that this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And I absolutely agree with you on that, on the note that it's not because we are women and we should be elected, but it's because we are also capable, right? We are also capable of running. We are also capable of leading. We are also capable of making decisions that will affect, you know, the nation as a whole. So I think it's very important that, you know, that is also understood, not because we are women and we have to have women, but because we are also capable. We have led, you know, in spaces, we have seen results, we have, you know, done our work, and then now we are getting into the top, you know, top position in the country. And so I think that respect and dignity should be accorded to us as
Yeah.
humans, not just women, but as human, and that's very fundamental. Um, I also believe that we can also support a woman, but or any candidate, not woman, but any candidate. But it is the policies of the party that it is the policies of the party that has supported them that will dictate their, they will dictate their how they deliver. So I can support a candidate because that person is talking about, you know, rights of youth and youth issues and how they want to better youth, um, better issues affecting youth in the country. But then if the candidate if the candidate is sponsored by a political party that doesn't have strategy on how to address youth issues in the country, then it becomes a problem, because the moment that the candidate gets into parliament, then the strategies and the policies of the party that endorse this candidate is gonna go overall for this candidate. And then now, because that party doesn't have a strategy on how to address youth issues in the country, it doesn't matter if the political candidate wanted to address youth issues in the country, because it is not in the big plan of the political party that sponsored that candidate. So that worries me as well. What are your thoughts on that too?
Oh, I have so many worries, so many thoughts. I don't even know where to start, you know.
So same, sister, same.
But we have the experience, but on the other hand, it's like we're still trying to learn as we go.
Yeah.
And so it just completely depends on the individuals, the mindset. Like you and I are always having this discussion on mindset.
Yes.
And in the space of the work that we do as well, like this is something else where we need multiple things to be happening. It's in the information in keeping people informed, the making sure that the mindsets of our people are in the right place, that those that are
Yeah.
tasked with doing and guiding and setting the platform and benchmark and paving the way for doing that is done accordingly. Sometimes it's a depressing topic to talk about, but I like that we can have the conversations, and that's the important thing. We won't change anything or get stuff done differently if we just keep doing the same thing. So
Absolutely. But thank you. I mean, you have been incredible. This conversation has been enriching, and you giving your perspective on. I know we covered like a lot of topics today, but hopefully next time we'll just focus on one topic and just ask as many questions on just one particular topic. But I really thank you for your time. And we are like past one, 1 past 8. So that's 1 minute of your time. I will not take any more longer. And I really, really appreciate you coming on live with me and sharing your experience, sharing your story. It's always good to hear from you and also your perspective on so many things. So I really appreciate your insight um, during this conversation, and I hope that we can have this conversation later on when you probably are running for an office in the future. Who knows?
one day, one day.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Hannah.
Thank you very
And
much. Have a good weekend.
you too. Thank you. Okay. So hi, there was Hennah Joku, and she we just talked about a lot of things, and I hope that you've taken 1 or 2 points from this conversation. And please leave a comment below if you've learned something or if you have any questions that you want to ask, so we can get around to respond to your comments, your questions, and your queries. Comments, questions, and queries. Queries is the same as comments. Sorry. So yeah, I am so thankful that you all joined, and please stay tuned for our next guest who is going to be joining us again this month, and stay tuned for the updates for that guest. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And may God bless you. Have a lovely day today. Bye bye. Thank you.